Good morning. Did I already read this? Like in school or something? Because it was a while since it was written, right? The reason I'm asking is because after I started reading it yesterday, I dreamt the whole thing. I don't know if what I dreamt is accurate, and I could not regurgitate it. What a nasty word, by the way. For you, and describe it. But it's gonna be really interesting to read the rest of this and find out if I actually know it already. That dream was insane. Okay, so a proper welcome to this reading vlog and reading update video. So in this video I'm gonna talk to you about my two most recent reads, and I'm also going to have you with me on this day. So the vlog's only gonna be today. If I don't finish the book I'm currently reading, I might come back, like the end of the video might be me coming back when I finished it. But today is Cinnamon Bun Day here in Sweden. It's the 4th of October, and it's Cinnamon Bun Day. Yes, it's a thing. You know, it's one of those, like, there's something every day, all year round. You know, there's like Sticky Cake Day, Cinnamon Bun Day. I'm sure there are so many different kind of, like, pastry and cake days. But I really like cinnamon, so I actually do try to celebrate Cinnamon Bun Day. And it's also like I'm gluten intolerant and I can't really have you know, proper cinnamon buns, and I don't really know how to make them, because I'm still looking for a way to make cinnamon buns that in a good way. So for like once a year I do buy them. More often than that I do buy them if I just crave them, but for once a year I make it a point, a thing, to buy some cinnamon buns and then just spend the day cozy, reading, doing cozy stuff. So even though I might have other things to do today, like right now I am pausing editing my TBR video for October, so I can put that up before this one goes out. So I'm gonna do that, but when I'm like exporting and stuff I can read, and then I'm gonna eat some cinnamon buns. That's what I'm gonna. That's kind of my plan today. It's a Saturday and it's a day off, and I can just do what I want. And I have planned this all week, so I have a couple of cinnamon buns. I'm gonna make some hot chocolate. And I'm gonna read. And what am I reading? Yeah. You did see like a taste of that in the beginning of this video. So I am reading Daphne du Maurier's Jamaica Inn, and I am currently 60 pages into it, but I did also read like the introduction, I think it's called, that was 11 pages, so I've read around 72 pages of this already. So I'm not quite as far in to really talk about. Yeah, I can talk about what it's about. It's about 300 pages long, so maybe 70 pages in I can talk a little bit about it. So as far as I know, this book is about Mary Yellen. Is that how you pronounce it? Mary Yellen. And she lived with her mother after her father passed away, and they were keeping up the family farm. And then when Mary was around 20 years old, I think, her mother gave up. She was like, I can't do this anymore, I have no will to live. So it's a bit, you know, trigger warning maybe for giving up. She didn't actively unalive, but she gave up on life, and then she got sick. And that's kind of in the first chapter of the book, and it's kind of important that we know this, I think, going in, because the rest of the book is about Mary Yellen going to her aunts, so her mother's sister and her uncle, that is her mother's sister's husband, to live with them at Jamaica Inn. So he's the landlord of Jamaica Inn, and he wants her to work at the bar, and this is so... that's kind of how far I've gotten. Some weird things have happened where I'm at, and it is starting to get really eerie. And I want to just share a quote. She slept, and then, without warning, she heard something snap in the piece of her mind that had unfolded her, and she was awake suddenly, sitting up in bed, with the moonlight streaming on her face. And I don't know, that just caught me. I was like, I could just feel it, you know? I could feel how it would be lying in bed and just having something wake you, and you're like, the heart is pounding, and you're like, you know, what was that? What is that? What's happening? And I read another book recently, and I haven't talked about it yet. I'm gonna talk about it in this video, actually. It's one of those I'm gonna do a reading update for. So I read All Systems Red by Martha Wells. And in my review of it on Goodreads and on Fable, I wrote that there was something about the writing style that didn't really got me engaged into the world, and I liked the plot, I liked the characters, but there was just something that didn't get me fully engaged. And at the time I was like, maybe it's me, maybe I'm just too tired, maybe my head's somewhere else, maybe I just can't engage in this book right now, maybe it's not the author, because I know the books are popular. But then the book before that, I did get engaged in the book. And then with this one, I was just like sucked into it, and like it was like I was there. No, my heart was pounding next to Mary's, you know. And I was like, it's not me. It's not me. I am able to be, you know, ripped into the world. With that said, I know that, you know, different readers have different experiences and, you know, needs different things to be able to be engaged in a story. So it's not me, but it's me versus that book and that author, maybe. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on in this video. So now you know what I'm reading, where I'm at, and I'm going to talk more about that. So with the other two books that I'm going to talk about, I will not be spoiling the content or anything like that. But with this book, I can't make that promise. So if you want to skip when I'm talking about it from here on out, if you don't want any spoilers or any quotes or anything like that, you are free to skip the sections where I hold this up, and then when I don't hold it up, I'm not talking about it. So that's what I'm gonna, that's what I can promise you. But when you see me reading it or eating a cinnamon bun, that's okay. Those are moments where I won't be spoiling anything. So yeah, see you soon. Okay, so now I have published my TBR video for October. My I Let's Becca's Spookopoly from last year decide my TBR for October. So that means now I am going to make some hot chocolate and my cinnamon buns, and I'm gonna read a bit more in Jamaica Inn. I have read like 10 pages since I last talked about it earlier. I've also had lunch in between. So yeah, that's where we're at. Okay, now what I usually do is I let that sit for a moment and then I will get back to it and yeah, make a proper cup of hot chocolate. Okay, so while I'm waiting for my hot chocolate to, I don't know the word for it. You put a dry ingredient and a wet ingredient and then they're gonna get married. So while I wait for that, I'm gonna give you my first reading update of this vlog. And with that I mean like my regular updates from my other videos where I talk about like 1 or 2 recent books I've read. So I'm not gonna talk about Jamaica Inn, I'm gonna talk about this one. A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. So in this book we follow Sarah Swan. She is she's a human with magical abilities. She's actually, at the beginning of the book, she's one of the most powerful witches. And this is set in the UK. It's set in, I don't know where it's set. Lancashire. It's set in Lancashire. And in the beginning of the book, she's 15. And I was like, no, is this YA? Is this gonna be, yeah, but no. There is a part of the book at the beginning where she is 15, and then in like the next chapter she's adult. She's an adult, and so the thing is that when she was 15, she resurrected her great aunt from the very recently dead. And when in doing that, she kind of gave all of her power, her magical power, into that process. So she lost all of her power. So she's been without power for a number of years when we get to meet her in adulthood. So we follow her in this book, and the inn, the magical inn that she runs with her great aunt Jasmine, and there's also a fox. And when I talked about this in my TBR game video, my Spooktober, I was thinking that why don't we get to know how she befriended the fox? Is there gonna be a prequel? But yeah, we get to know that. So that story is embedded in this one, so don't fret, you will know. If you haven't read it already, we know about the fox. And there's another creature in this story as well that is accidentally resurrected together with Jasmine. This is so funny. So in the inn where she lives, there's a lot of people living there. It's like the inn attracts people that need the inn for different reasons, and they are kind of found family in that inn. And then some way into the book, Luke Larson comes this with his autistic sister. And I am not autistic. I have friends that are, but I am not the one to say if that is an accurate representation of being autistic. I recognize some of it, but it's not my tale to tell. It's not my place to have an opinion on that. But I thought it was interesting that there was such a representation. If it is a good one, then that's great. And then there was a lot of other representation in this book. There's a lot of mentioning of the the racism towards people in Britain that is, you know, they are Britons, they are born in Britain, but they have darker skin. There's a lot of mentioning of that in a very representative way, I think. Yeah, not my story to tell, but it's very interesting. So the only thing I can kind of compare it to is that I watch a lot of Shaba here on YouTube. Not BookTube, but YouTube. Shaba is married to Jamie Rains, aka Jamie Dodger, and Shaba is of non-English heritage, and she often mentions in her videos racism against brown people. So it was interesting that that came up here as well. You might see that Sarah is rather brown. And then there's also representation of LGBTQ. So there's one person that's non-binary, or at least the pronouns are they, them. There are lesbian, or at least, you know, a love between women representation. I don't want to assume that people are straight, lesbian, gay just because of who they fall in love with in a book, because, you know, bisexual erasure, please don't. I myself, I'm bisexual, but I'm in a relationship with a person. That doesn't, you know, define the relationship I have. Doesn't define my sexuality. So I try not to do that with books as well either. So I don't want to assume that they are lesbians. It's a sapphic relationship that is coming up in this, but that doesn't mean that they are necessarily, it doesn't state that they are, you know, only dating women or only just lesbians. You know, they might be more or something else. So anyway, there's a lot of good and nice representation in this, I think. So I really enjoyed this. Back to the story. So the story is kind of Sarah hoping to get her magic back. It's also about helping the fox with her little problem. And I thought I was gonna love the fox, but I'm not a big fan of her personality. At the end of the book, I would not forgive her, just saying. So I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 5-star or a 4.5, somewhere around that. And you see I've tabbed some pages. And I think it was cute, it was wonderful, it was everything I want from like a witchy, contemporary, slightly romantic, magical realism book for October. I just wish there were more of it. Like, not necessarily that it was too short. It was great. The length was great. The ending was a good ending. But I wish there was another one. You know, can she please write books faster? That's what I'm saying. So back to the hot chocolate. I really should put my apron on because I am such a mess when I'm in the kitchen. Okay, apron on. See, it's nice and it's nice. It's the right texture that I want for this. Put it as close as I can. And then some more of this. And heat is good. Heat is very good if you want hot chocolate. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that that doesn't, you know, boil over. But I'm also gonna take this time to give you my second reading update. So for both of these books, so the last one I talked about, A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, and this one was on my Spooktober TBR. So, this is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. It's the first book in the Murderbot series. And I gave this somewhere between 3 and 4 stars. I can't really settle, because it's short. I did enjoy the Murderbot. I did enjoy the storyline, like the plot of the book. I did have a problem with the writing style, because it failed to engage me enough to really just find a flow. My flow of reading was interrupted too many times by me not understanding what the F they were talking about or describing, and I had to backtrack and read several sentences again to be like, oh, okay, so that's what they're talking about. And I don't think that's good, you know. And it felt like something that would have been acceptable to me if this was a novella in the middle of a series. Like when I read 6 Scorched Roses, that's a part of the Neaxia world by Carissa Broadbent. I already knew the world building because I had read 2 books in the same in the same world before that, so I knew the world. I knew what the vampires was supposed to be able to do, and I knew all of that stuff. So going into that book, there was a lot of things I already knew, and that's kind of the level I felt the author wanted me to be on. Like, I felt like I should have really known and understood a lot of the things, so I had to backtrack and you know, really scrutinize the writing to find explanations for things, and it wasn't up to par. It didn't really help me as much as I wanted to. Simply put, it failed to make me understand what the world building was like. It was like we were learning about it as we went, but the book is so short and the plot is so thick in comparison, and there's so many things happening, especially with following, because we are in the mind of the Murderbot and we are following his thoughts its thoughts. We're following it. I think I'm saying him because I kept picturing Alexander Skarsgård in the role. So, you know, that's where it went wrong for me in my head. But we kept following its thoughts and the thought process and emotions, and there was a lot of them. And there was a lot of thoughts about the humans and that sort of thing. And it just... there was no room for the world building to be at the level I wanted it to be. So at one point I thought it was me, because I was like, is it me? Is my head not in it? But then I started reading Jamaica Inn, as I said, and I was like, no, it's not me. I'm invested in this one. I'm engaged. It's not me. So what I'm gonna do is, at some point I'm gonna read the second book and hope that it redeems all of it. That in the second book we get to understand more, and it gives me a better flow. Because if it doesn't, I might DNF the series, because this was short and I, you know, powered through and I wanted to understand and know. But if it had been 300 pages and all of it was like this, I would not have continued, I think. It would have been hard, at least. I would have taken a lot of breaks, and I would have... But it was like I couldn't take a lot of breaks because of the thin world building aspect. Every time I put it down and picked it up again, I was like, okay, where are they? What is it? What? And I had to backtrack every time I picked it up. So I think some of it might have been better if I would have read a translated version. Maybe that would have helped me. Maybe you know, the language barrier, because English isn't my first language, didn't really help it definitely didn't help. But I won't know for sure if it would have helped a lot. So I'm on the fence. But yeah, so between 3 and 4 stars, I can't really decide. There was a lot of aspects I liked, and I want to continue following the character of Murderbot if I can, if the next book is better for me. Perfect. And now I'm gonna add some honey to the mix. A good chunk of honey. And of course I'm gonna clean this up before I leave the kitchen. My cup of hot chocolate. My cinnamon buns. My book. And a glass of water. Wonderful. Anyone else eat cinnamon buns like this? There really is no other way. Oh, and I have a vendetta against, I'm at war with the fruit flies of this home. Yesterday I started a war, and I was just reminded of it because one was like this. And I have, there are fewer today, because this time yesterday there had been 5. That is no more. Today, this was the second one I've seen, so there are fewer, but the war is ongoing. And I don't like being at war with animals of any kind, even insects. I don't like it. I wish there was another way. I wish I could just tell them to not be here, and they will be gone. Okay, so I don't understand, and I think you must have read the book to know what I'm talking about now, but I don't understand that if you are doing some bad business at your inn, like in this book, Joss Merlin is doing some kind of business, illegal business, whatever it is, and the Jamaica Inn has had a bad reputation because he scares everyone away. Why do you do that? It doesn't seem very smart, because reach the passage where the squire, I don't know what that means, I don't know what title that is in Swedish, but the squire, Mr. Bassett, that also sold Jamaica Inn to Mr. Merlin. He has come to the inn looking for Mr. Jocelyn, and he says that when Mrs. Merlin says, "We live very quietly here, indeed we do, my niece here will tell you the same," Mr. Bassett says, "Oh come, I'm not such a fool as that. I've had my eyes on this place for a long while. A house doesn't get a bad name without reason." So he knows that the house has a bad name, right? And I just don't understand. If you buy an inn to have like a storage for illegal goods, whatever you are smuggling, wouldn't it be better to have a good relationship with the law around, like the people that is, because he's supposed to be some kind of representative of the law. So wouldn't it be better to have a good relationship with those kind of people instead of scaring everyone away? Because it is an inn, and in this period of time, because the book is written in 1936, it's supposed to be around 1920, 1930, something like that. So there's an inn in the middle of nowhere, and the reason for an inn, like the purpose of an inn, is for people to come and lodge there, to come and have a drink, to come water their horses, to come and find a bed for the night before they move on. And you know, making your place so reputable in a bad way that no one comes and everyone talks about it and talks about how they're afraid of Mr. Merlin or whatever it is that they fear. That doesn't seem like a good plan. I'm just in awe of that. I don't really understand the mindset. But I couldn't really see Mr. Merlin be smart either. I think he just wants everyone to stay away, and he wanna make, you know, conduct his business in the way he wants to without anyone watching. He's not smart enough, I feel, so far into the book. I'm only like a third into the book. I don't feel so far that he's smart enough or able, because he's like this brute with a temper. He's not able to fool people and be this happy-go-lucky innkeeper that keeps everyone happy so that he can do his business in the back. But yeah, it just stuns me, you know, to read about how it's conducted. Yeah, back to the book, back to my cinnamon bun. Okay, so he's a magistrate. I know more about what that is. And he has a warrant. So that gives me some idea of what this person is regarding the law. Good, not evening, not yet, but I have had dinner, so it's evening soon. So I have done some other things. I had a workout and I had a shower. Felt really, really nice, both of those things. Since you last saw me, I've read a little bit more in this book, so I'm now at the page 120. So there's a few more things I would like to do today, but like calm things. Right now I'm watching the first episode of Wayward with May Martin, among other people. And I would like to make a dent, as people say, in my reading journal. Or not make a dent, but, you know, get somewhere in my reading journal, because I have some books to add to my reading journal. So a few days ago, or like last weekend maybe, yeah, last weekend, I printed a lot of these small pictures of books that I've read for the last few months, and I put them in the reading journal, so I prepped it kinda, which hopefully will help me feel a bit motivated as well to get right back on that. So I might read a little bit more tonight, but for a couple of hours now there's some things I would like to do, and yeah, so you'll probably hear from me tomorrow. I'm gonna push myself because I don't like to be on a time limit, so I'm gonna read this and not feel stressed about it, because it doesn't have to be in on Monday. It's just that I'm going there on Monday, so if I'm ready to return it, that would be nice. I think no one's waiting on this. No one's waiting on this. You know, the library held on to this in transit for so long that I talked to my dad about it, and he was like, someone working there is reading it between, you know, they've probably gotten it at your local library, and someone there is reading it before putting it in the system for you to pick up. And I really think that's what happened, because it took so long for it to just be sitting before I got the notification to pick it up. But yeah, that's just a fun anecdote. So anyway, 120 pages in. I'll read a little bit more later on. Right now I'm waiting for my partner to get home. And yeah, maybe we will watch something together later on as well. We are in the middle of Squid Game season 3. The latest season anyway. I think it's the 3rd season, right? So I hope we can watch 1 or 2 episodes of that. Yeah. So see you later. Good morning. It is Tuesday today. So it's Tuesday the 7th of October. So it's been a few days since I had cinnamon buns and read a lot of the book. So I finished the book. And oh boy, okay, so I don't agree with the person that wrote the introduction or prologue or whatever it was called. The introduction. I don't agree with the person who wrote the introduction and said that after 2 chapters you can't read it slow because you're just so invested in the story. I don't really agree with that. I feel like this is 300 pages, and it wasn't until around maybe page 220 that I really felt like I wanted to read it all in one sitting. That I was like, okay, I'm getting cozy here, I have time, I'm gonna read it because it's so interesting. It took a while. But another thing that really has to do with it as well is that you remember me saying in like the first few seconds of this video that I had dreamt the book, and I was like, no, maybe I didn't, maybe it was something else, because what I was dreaming was I dreamt that I was drowning, there were ships, and there was a wreckage, and someone pulled at me, and I woke up not being able to breathe, and that happened over and over. And then I remembered I dreamed about a lantern and the shores, and just weird things. I know it was just very confusing at the time and very scary. So I know what to say in Swedish right now. Döm av min förvåning när jag kom till den punkten. But that's, I don't know what that is in English. But just imagine how surprised I was when we got to that part in the book. And I was like, no. And it took a while for me to understand what was happening in the book. And because in the book, Joss Merlin tells Mary when he's drunk, he tells her about all the awful things he's done. And this is a spoiler alert. And one of those things are that he's a wrecker. He and his men get boats to, you know, stray from their course and hit, I don't know what the word is in English, but you know, to, yeah, they make ships go into the shore instead of staying outside of it with some kind of false light, you know. So he's a wrecker, that's what it's called. So he's telling her about things he's done and that he's had to kill people to get their treasures from their pockets and from the ships, etc. And I read that and I was like, oh, that's horrible. That's horrible. I still hadn't really understood what it was I was reading. And I hadn't connected to it. And then Mary dreamt about it. Those faces in the water. And I was like, that's my dream. So that kinda threw me for a loop at one point. And I couldn't really read this in the evening. So I would have finished it 2 days ago. I finished this yesterday, so Monday. I would have finished it on Sunday if I had been able to go to sleep right after. But I couldn't. I wasn't able to do that. I had to read something else before bed to not completely ruin my mind again. So I have no... So there's a struggle within me because I have no recollection of reading this before. Reason says I must have. But I'm just gonna leave it at that. And yeah. So I was kinda extra invested in the story, you might say. And then when we came to the page like 220, things were happening and I was like, okay, now I want to read the whole story. Because I was struggling a little bit, especially with the priest, I think he is in the story, or he's supposed to be a priest. When he's talking, the language in the book becomes a little bit more, you know, advanced, and English isn't my first language, so, and this is like old English, I think. And I had to look a few words up. The word yonder really bugged me. And it's like, they're using yonder for everything. What the F does it mean? Turns out it means a lot of things. So anyway, so far I've given this 3.5 stars because I don't know what I think about it. I don't know. I haven't reviewed it anywhere yet because I still need to process it. I can't really decide if it's brilliant or if I didn't enjoy it. And you know, I have to kind of take it apart. There has to be time between when I read it and when I review it, I think. I need to be able to gain a distance from it and then pick it apart a little bit to really make sense of what I feel about it. So now I can watch Gavin Reads It All video about reading the book at the place. So I'm gonna do that. Note to self, don't ever take that bus at that time again. I think it just died a little. I had completely forgotten how obnoxious teenagers are in a group setting. So I just happened to take the bus that all of the teenagers from one school took, and I think I feel like I died. And at least I'm completely drained of energy, so well, I've been to the library and I managed to only come home with 2 books after returning 3, among them Jamaica Inn. Okay, so I'm in the bedroom for this outro. I've just had a shamanic ceremony online, so yeah, I've got a few moments to myself. So I have not only finished Jamaica Inn, earlier today I went to the library to return Jamaica Inn, and as I said, you know how the bus trip went. Not worth it. Not worth it. And what I mean by that is that I could have at two points in time during the day, I could have opted for another outcome of the day, but I didn't know it, of course. But so first of all, I took a longer route on my earlier walk with the dog, and because of that I took a later bus to the library, 1 bus later, like 15 minutes later than last time. And when I was at the library, I looked at my watch in my phone, and I looked at the timetable for the buses and at my ticket, because the point is that I often manage to go round trip on 1 ticket, and I was like, oh, but I have time to I have more time, I can be here, I can just walk around a little bit, because the rules are that you have to enter the bus before the ticket is up. So when you're on the bus, you can continue on to your destination as long as you get onto the bus before the ticket is up. So I was like, well, it's cutting it close, but I can stay here a bit longer. So if I hadn't done that, then I would have gotten on a bus earlier, and I would have been earlier than all of the children, all of the teens that I had to endure on the bus. They were so loud. I had forgotten how loud 13 and 14-year-olds are. It was really insane. So I'm gonna try to never be in that position ever again. I'm gonna do my very best. So anyway, when I got home, I had some dinner, and then I watched Gavin reads it all, reading Jamaica Inn in Jamaica Inn. So now I've watched that, and after watching that, I want to give this book a 4-star, because he had some really good points when he spoke about the writing and the atmosphere, and of course it was all enhanced for him because he was at Jamaica Inn. I could really understand what he was going through when he was there. So but with having watched that, I will up my rating a little bit. I'm not sure I can put words into a proper review yet, but yeah, I did. So after sleeping on it for a night, and watching Gavin's video, I can say that I really did enjoy the storyline and all of the twists and turns, and the ending, OMG, that was amazing. So I'm leaning more towards Daphne du Maurier being a genius than not. And I do look forward to reading more books by her, and I just have to, you know, be okay with looking up a lot of words along the way. I have been through worse. I remember the first and only time I tried to read a book by Sarah J. Maas. I will never do that again. That was agony. All of the words that I had to look up, and that it didn't even make sense to me because, you know, it was fantasy. And yeah, no. So I've been through worse. So and I only gave her book 2.5 stars. I wanna say it was, I don't remember which book it was, but I only gave it 2.5 stars. But I'm giving Jamaica Inn 4 stars, I think. Gavin gave it 4.5. I'm gonna give it 4. Maybe if I ever get to Jamaica Inn, because I wanted to go so bad when I watched the video. If I ever end up there, maybe I will up the book's rating. 0.5 star as well. We'll see. So anyway, this is it for this vlog. I will see you in the next one, and or whatever comes in between. Xingling.